This is so stupid. Okay. Hello everyone, welcome back. Great to see you all. Thanks for joining me again this week. As you all know, it is officially October, which means it is officially Halloween season. Because we all know that Halloween is not just a day, it's a season. So to celebrate, I'm very excited to be launching something that I've decided to call Pandaween 2K17. See, it even rhymes. How great is that? During which I will be putting out a Halloween themed video for the entirety of October, starting of course with this one, as you can see by the Haunter hoodie and the unsettling spooky lighting. So I thought that a fun way to start this off would be to talk about a subject that I'm quite interested in, and that is not urban legends, but video game urban legends. Bit of a disclaimer here, even though I do find video game urban legends very interesting, I also get very creeped out super easily. So I would be lying if I told you that some of the entries on this list didn't keep me up at night and mess with my sleep patterns a whole bunch. But for all of the ones on this list, I have gotten past that, and now I can actually look at them for the neat little tales that they are. I'm gonna be sharing them with you guys today, and I am super excited to do so. So with that being said, let's get into the Halloween spirit with some video game urban legends. I thought that would be fun to start things off with one of the many Pokemon urban legends. This was actually the first video game urban legend that I was ever exposed to, and so that being said, I guess you could say that it has kind of a special place in my heart. It did keep me up for like a solid week after I was first told about it, but it still holds a special place in my heart. It's actually not that creepy, but the way that I was told about it made it super creepy, and I'll be getting to that later. But either way, let's just jump into this first urban legend. That is the urban legend about Pokemon Creepy Black. Pokemon Creepy Black is the story about a seemingly normal Pokemon Red cartridge that was found at a flea market back in 2005. Now I say seemingly because while at the beginning it seems of course like a normal Pokemon game, it becomes eventually quite clear that there is more than meets the eye with this particular cartridge. Things start out relatively normal. You get to begin your journey, you meet the professor, and then you choose your starter. But after choosing your starter is when things get a little bit weird, because in your party, in addition to the starter Pokemon that you start out with, there is another Pokemon simply known as Ghost. And no matter what you do, you cannot take this Pokemon out of your party. When you eventually go out to start battling other Pokemon, whether they're wild Pokemon or Pokemon with a trainer, things start to get a little bit freaky. When you enter in battle, the game tells you that the defending Pokemon is apparently too afraid to move at the sight of Ghost. Now Ghost only has one move, and that is Curse, and if you use that move on the defending Pokemon, the screen will simply cut to black, and then you'll hear the cry of that Pokemon, but distorted. Then the game cuts back to the battle screen, in which the defending Pokemon will no longer be visible. Now if you were battling a Pokemon that also had a trainer, you are then given the choice to use Curse on that trainer. And if you do so, the screen will cut to black and then take you back to the overworld map where the trainer's sprite will no longer be present. However, if you exit that area and then come back, the spot where you originally encountered that trainer's sprite will simply be marked with a tombstone. Pretty flippin' messed up. So essentially, you're going around committing murder. That's basically what you're doing. You're murdering Pokemon and trainers. It's pretty messed up. The rest of the game pretty much goes on as normal, except for this very messed up twist, of course, until you defeat the Elite Four. After you defeat the Elite Four, the screen will then cut to black, after which you will find yourself in Lavender Tower. However, instead of being represented by the young trainer sprite, your sprite is instead that of an old man. Now, as this old man, you are only able to walk at half the speed that you were able to walk originally, and the Lavender Town theme will be playing on a constant loop in the background. But that's not even the most unsettling part. Upon leaving Lavender Tower, you quickly learn that the overworld map is completely void of AI. There's nobody there, just the tombstones of all of the trainers that you murdered up until that point. From there, you are able to go back to your hometown and enter your house, and if you return to the exact same square that you started the game on, the screen will cut to black once again and proceed to show you a slideshow of the sprites of all of the Pokemon and trainers that you used Cursed on throughout the game. The Lavender Town theme will still be playing, however, it gets more warped and distorted and creepy as the slideshow goes on. Once the slideshow ends, you are then confronted with who else but Ghost, who then proceeds to challenge you to a battle. However, at that point you have no Pokemon with you, you have no way of fighting back, so essentially Ghost uses Curse on you, the screen cuts to black for a final time, and then you have no choice but to restart your Game Boy. And if you do restart your Game Boy, when you boot the game back up, the only option is to start a new game, so the game file deletes itself. Like I said, this was the first video game urban legend that I was ever exposed to. It was actually my cousin who told it to me, and she's probably watching right now, so hi Cass, love you. And she told this story to me with two major differences. The way that she told it, she said that there were multiple cartridges at multiple different thrift stores and flea markets and like EB Games or GameStop, we call it EB Games here, that people were coming across. People were getting freaked out. They thought it was a normal game, but then they would eventually learn that it was this creepy version of the game. And then on top of that, she actually told it to me as if it had actually happened. So I thought that this was an actual thing that had happened, and it wasn't until my parents caught wind of this and calmed me down and told me that this definitely was not a real story that I learned that it wasn't. So it was a lot creepier when I was told about it. Obviously, me telling it now, it's not as creepy. It's definitely creepy to think about if that actually happened and you unexpectedly found this version of the game that you thought was a normal version, but actually turns out to be this very messed up, creepy version. Anyway, that being said, let's move on to our second urban legend on the list. This one, probably a lot of you have already heard about it. It's definitely a video game urban legend classic, and that is POLYBIUS. Now, the 1980s marked the rise of video game cabinets. Arcades across the world had these cabinets everywhere, and they were a massive success. You had your Pac-Man, you had your Space Invaders, you had your Mario Brothers. But it is said that in 1981, in a small arcade in Portland, Oregon, there was another game that no one had heard of before, simply known as POLYBIUS. Now, POLYBIUS's gameplay was said to involve multiple flashing lights, geometric shapes, and it was this very interesting kind of puzzle game that nobody had really seen before. Now, despite it being a totally unknown game at the outset, it quickly became a hit among the patrons of that arcade. That is until those players started exhibiting some very concerning symptoms, including amnesia, insomnia, hallucinations, and major night terrors. At this point, people started to notice that multiple men in black, supposedly from the FBI, would come and visit this arcade and seemingly investigate the POLYBIUS cabinet and gather information from it, until about a month after POLYBIUS had originally popped up in this arcade, the game just disappeared and has never been seen or heard of ever again. Now, I'm not going to say much more about this particular urban legend because there's actually this amazing YouTube documentary that dives so thoroughly into the origins and details of this urban legend, and just the research behind it is incredible. It's a really amazing watch, and I strongly recommend that you guys check it out. It's actually what got me really interested in this urban legend and is really the reason why it's on this list at all. So I'm going to link that up there and down there, and again, I strongly recommend that you guys give it a watch because it is super interesting. Without further ado, let's move on to my final entry on this list, my top pick when it comes to video game urban legends. I think this is a really interesting one, really well developed one, and just really spooky one, and that is the legend of Kill Switch. Now, this story goes that back in 1989, a publisher known as Carvina Corporation released a game simply known as Kill Switch. Kill Switch featured very simple 8-bit monochrome graphics and was essentially a puzzle and side-scrolling game. In this game, you could choose to play as one of two characters, either Porto, who was a human woman who didn't have any sort of special abilities really in the game, or Gast, who was a demon who had multiple very powerful abilities. However, the thing about playing as Gast is that his character was completely invisible, making it pretty much impossible to play his route. But that's not even the craziest part. The thing about Kill Switch is that if you died in the game, you died in real life. I'm kidding. If you died in Kill Switch, that was it. The game would just erase itself and you could never play that copy of the game ever again. Now, despite this element of difficulty, some people were actually able to complete the game on Porto's route. However, it eventually became known that Porto's route only told you half of the story, and the other half was told through Gast's route. This caused an outcry from multiple fans of the game, asking Carvina Corp if they could release more copies, because at this point, Carvina had only manufactured 5,000 copies. Carvina, however, stated that this went against the experience that they were aiming to simulate with the game, so they refused to make any more copies. This sparked an outcry among people who really wanted to know about the rest of the game. All hope on this front seemed to be lost until a gamer in the early 2000s managed to win an eBay auction for a brand new copy of the game. He said that he would make multiple Let's Plays so that people could experience Kill Switch with him. However, as of right now, the only known video of his playthrough is a clip that's about 1 minute and 40 seconds long of him crying in front of the camera while the character select screen is visible over his shoulder. This is actually a short story written by Catherine M. Valenti and was featured in her book entitled The Melancholy of Mechagirl, which is a collection of very short stories and poems that she's written that are centered around Japan. And that's totally on my reading list. I'm totally picking up that book at some point. Not sponsored. So it was a work of fiction from the beginning. It wasn't actually meant to fool anybody, but it managed to grow to be an urban legend, which is really neat. I think this is just such a fantastic concept and just such a creepy concept and just such a great way to make a creepy story centered around a video game that also doesn't involve anybody being physically hurt. I like that part a lot too. But anyway, that's why it's my #1 spot. I really, really enjoy this story. So there you have it. Those are 3 of my favorite video game urban legends. I really appreciate you guys deciding to hang out with me, and I'm really excited to be bringing you guys more Halloween themed videos for Pandaween, 2K17. It's exciting, guys. I'm hyped. I'm really interested to know which of these 3 was your personal favorite, as well as which video game urban legends in general are your favorites. Again, this is a topic that I'm really interested in, even if it does freak me out in many cases. I really like this topic. I think it's really fun to talk about, so feel free to start a conversation. We'll talk about it in the comments and get into the Halloween spirit and just nerd out. And also let me know what you guys think makes a good video game urban legend. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today and joining me for the first video in Pandaween 2017. I will be bringing you guys more Halloween themed content as the month goes on. So until next time, Panda Faces, please be sure to take care and stay creepy. Bye guys! I'm launching something that I am